Hello there, welcome to Blue Harvest History. We're back in Leeds today and we're going to be talking and walking down Briggate. In 1207, Maurice Pennell, Lord of the Manor, granted Leeds its first borough charter. As well as giving personal freedom to the burgesses of Leeds, it effectively laid the foundations for the new town along the line of a street north of the crossing of the Aire. The street was wide enough to hold a market, and either side were about 30 burgess plots of building land, which was seen to be identified with the old inn yards shown on the 19th century maps. The street became lined with houses and shops, with open courts, gardens and tenure grounds behind. There was no bridge over the Aire at the time of the charter, and the earliest written reference found to a bridge is in the late 14th century. But the street became known as Briggate, the road to the bridge. The name appeared in documents from the early 16th century onwards. A survey of Leeds in 1628 gives the following description of Briggate. Leeds standeth pleasant on a fulfil and enclosed vale, upon north side of the same river of Aire, over and beyond a stone bridge, from whence it hath a large and broad street, paved with stone, leading direct north and continuing ascending. The houses on both sides thereof are very thicky, this is hard to read, and close compacted together, being ancient, mean and low build, and general of all of timber. Though they have stone quarries frequent in the town, and about it, some other few of the rich sort of inhabitants have their houses more rich and capacious, yet all low and straitened in their backsides. In the middle of the street, towards the upper end whereas the marketplace standeth, is built the court or moot house, as they term it, and from thence upwards are the shambles, with a narrow street on both sides, much annoying the whole town, yet for their convenience and want of room, not to be avoided or places elsewhere. January 1643 saw the Civil War conflict, sometimes referred to as the Battle of Briggate. A parliamentary army of over 2,000 men under Sir Thomas Fairfax attacked the Royalist force commanded by Sir William Savile, encamped behind a defensive trench stretched from behind St John's Church at the top of Briggate, west to the street around the Aire. The parliamentarians, established on Hunslet Moor and northwest of Leeds, near St John's and Red Hall, carried the day after a fierce skirmish. Sir Thomas Fairfax wrote that we took 500 prisoners, among whom were 6 commanders. Most of the rest were common soldiers, who, upon taking a common oath never to fight in this cause against the King and the Parliament, were set at liberty and suffered to depart, but unarmed. There were not above 40 slain, whereof 10 or 20 of the most of our side, and the rest on theirs. Most laconically, the registers of Leeds Parish Church say that 23rd January 1643, this was the day when Leeds was taken by Sir Thomas Fairfax, 11 soldiers slain, 10 unpaid for. The old Leeds Bridge was probably built in the 14th century. It was replaced by the present structure in the 1870s. Until 1730 it was only wide enough to allow the passage of horse and cart, but it was widened to take double carriages. It was famous as a site of the Leeds cloth market in the 16th and 17th century. Ralph Thoresby describes the bridge as the Leeds Bridge is strong and robust, made of large squared stones, and if the number of pillars and arches be equalled by many and outdone by some, 'tis however in one respect peerless, that the memorable cloth market, the very life of these parts of England, was kept upon the bridge, and the cloths being laid upon the battlements of the bridge, and upon the benches below, every Tuesday and Saturday morning till 14th of June 1684, when it was a great convenience removed to the broad street where it now remains. The cloth market was held in Briggate, just north of the bridge, until the building of the White Cloth Hall in 1710 to 1711, and the Coloured Cloth Hall in 1756 to 1758. The general and fish markets were high up between Ball Lane and Kirkgate. The centre of Briggate and extended into the site of the Queen's Arcade were the Moot Hall, built in 1618 and used as a town hall and a courthouse, and a row of houses and shops called a Middle Row. The narrow alleys left on either side of these buildings housed the meat shambles and the raw wool market. Farther north still, The corn market was held in the part of the Briggate known as Cross Parish, after the market cross given to Leeds by the benefactor John Harrison in 1619. The Mute Hall, Middle Row, a market cross, always a serious impediment to traffic, were demolished in 1825. Several different market buildings were erected in Leeds in the 1820s, including the Corn Exchange, which was on the site of what is now New Briggate. It was not until the Corn Exchange was demolished in 1868 that the new Briggate could be constructed. Until then, the only thoroughfare north of the junction of Briggate. Upper Hedgerow and Lower Hedgerow was the new street, a narrow passage leading to St John's Church and ending roughly at the site of the Grand Theatre. The roads passing through the west side of Briggate are also of a comparatively recent date. Commercial Street was opened in 1804. Before that, the only access through the west side of the Briggate between Ball Lane and Upper Head Row was through tunnels and in yards. The only one named on the Jeffreys 1770 map of Leeds was Slipping Yard, now known as Pack Horse Yard. The powers given by the 1866 Improvement Act, Leeds Corporation widened and rebuilt Ball Lane into a scheme costing £60,000 and constructed New Briggate for a further £29,000. But Albion Place was not extended to Briggate until after 1903. The transformation of Briggate into the modern shopping street we know began in the last quarter of the 19th century. In 1875, Charles Thornton applied to build an arcade of shops along the side of the yard of the old Talbot Inn, and the success of Thornton's arcade led to the buildings of the other arcades. The second, Queen's Arcade, was also built along the route of the old inn yard, thus, like its predecessor, harking back to the original shape of the narrow medieval Burridge plots. The northern expansion of Briggate was reflected in the opening of the Grand Arcade in 1898. The most sumptuous development was undertaken by the Leeds Estate Company in 1898 to 1903. It involved the rebuilding of much of the area between Briggate and Vicar Lane, with the construction of County and Cross Arcades, the Empire Theatre and Queen Victoria and King Edward Streets. On the site of the streets that housed the shambles and the fish market, Briggate's prosperity has continued into the century, and with the building of the major stores and the reconstruction connected with the widening of Hedgerow in the 1920s. But it's intriguing to reflect that the pub yards and arcades still form a direct link with the medieval road to the bridge. So there we go, a little history of Briggate. If you want me to go down to these yards and go to these inns, I will do that as well. I'll maybe do a part 2 of this video. We'll look at all the yards, which are really interesting. So let me know if you want me to do that in the next video. So thank you for watching, and until the next time, look after your history.